On the one hand, as a husband, your responsibility is to your wife. You took her from her family. You took her from the protection of her parents. She had a wali, she had a father. And his job was to make sure she stays happy, safe, she's not insulted or humiliated, she's protected from all forms of abuse, physical, emotional, spiritual, all kinds of abuse. That was the father's role. And when you signed that nikah, and when you said you agree, then all of those roles were shifted over to you. You're supposed to be as protective of her, even more so, actually, than her father was. Because your relationship with her actually even goes further. She's even the mother of your children. There's more here. And so you were supposed to be a shield around her. At the same time, you are also a son. A son to your mother, a son to your father. And this religion teaches us that we cannot even say oof to our parents. You can't raise your voice to your parents at all. Now you are being pulled in two different directions. You have these enormous obligations to your spouse. Mithaqan ghalidha, the Quran calls it. A heavy contract, a heavy agreement. It's not a light thing, marriage. And on the other hand, you have this enormous responsibility to your parents. And sometimes they make you pick which one you're going to be good to. And your job is actually to draw a line and say, this is what I will do for my wife. This is how I will take care of her. And this is how I will protect her. And to let your parents know, you can say whatever you want to me. You can beat me up, you curse me out, I'm your kid. You do whatever you want, that's fine. I'll take it. But you can't touch her. You can't say a word to her. She's not yours. She's not your responsibility, and she's not your child. Especially the culture I come from, you know what they say when the girl's getting married? They say, oh, she's like our daughter. Oh, it's like we have a new daughter in the family. Beware when you hear those words. Girls, be thoroughly warned. Because when they say she's like our daughter, trouble is looming. Just a couple of weeks later, there's going to be commentary about how you didn't cook, or you cooked, with too much salt, or you're lazy, or you didn't clean, or some stuff is going to begin. No. The relationship between this woman and her husband's family, first and foremost, is a relationship of mutual respect. She has to be treated with respect, and she has to treat with respect. When it comes to rights and obligations, she is under no obligation to obey your parents. I'm sorry. I'm sorry in that I feel sorry for you that you believed that for so long. But your wife has no obligation to obey your parents. And if you are forcing her to obey your parents and serve your parents, you are engaged in an act of injustice. You're being abusive. You're not a qawwam. You're not the qawwam Allah made you. You were supposed to be taking care of her. You didn't bring a servant into the family. And you're not supposed to be giving her lectures about you have to be patient, they're elder, they can say whatever they want. No. When even our family does something wrong, Allah commands us to stand up for justice. Even if it's وَلَوْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَوِ الْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ. You have to stand up for justice, even if it means you have to stand up against yourself. Meaning if you've done something wrong, you have to own up to it. And if your parents have done something wrong, you actually lovingly, respectfully, head down, humble voice, you still have to let them know, you can't do that, Mom. I'm sorry, you can't do that. Dad, that's not right. I'm not going to allow it. You're my dad, but those rights I will not allow you to trample. Because Allah will not be asking you, Allah will be asking me whether I was qawwam over my wife or not. If you cannot be that shield, then you are in violation of what Allah expects from you as a husband. That's very important to understand. We have situations in which, by the way, as people are listening to this, like I said in the beginning, I gave that disclaimer, there are going to be in-laws that are like, but there are wives that are abusive to the in-laws. You didn't give a khutbah about them. You just give a khutbah about how messed up we are, but what about them? They also throw shoes and do crazy things. Call them, I will, but I can only do one thing at a time in a khutbah. One at a time, it's coming. But right now we have to deal with one problem. And by the way, one evil doesn't justify the other evil. And one evil, well, they do it too, is not a deflection or not a justification that you get away with the other wrong that's happening. And you and I have to take stock in your own families. What's happening? Is this kind of wrong happening? Because if it is, then Allah will ask. The Rasul ﷺ says, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ. The best of you are the ones that are best to their families. This last bit that I wanted to share with you, please take note of it. There are three kinds of abuse that I want to highlight. Three kinds of abuse. The first of them is the worst of them, or you think it's the worst of them, is physical abuse. That is absolutely out of the question. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam outright, لا تضربوا إماء Allah, do not hit the female slaves of Allah. Outright, do not hit the female slaves of Allah. Now Allah's Messenger could have said, لا تضربوا النساء, don't hit women. Right? Don't hit women. Because the female slaves of Allah are women. But the power of those words is that, when you call them female slaves of women, female slaves of Allah, then their relationship fundamentally, who owns them? Allah does. And when you mess with someone else's property, like if you destroy my car, you haven't offended my car. Who have you offended? You offended me. If you came after my child, you haven't just insulted my child or abused my child, you've abused who? Me. I will come after you. You understand? If they are Allah's property and you hit them, who is coming after you? Allah. La tadribu ima Allah. Watch it. They belong to Allah. That's what the Messenger says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So physical abuse is absolutely out of the question. It is out of the question. And anybody who would like to argue otherwise, I'll stick around after Jummah. I can talk to you about it. The second kind of abuse is emotional. And emotional abuse could be verbal. It could be when the husband is not around, the in-laws come along and say, by the way, you're just here for a little bit. We can get rid of you whenever we want. That's my son. And when the husband's home, then how are you? You're so sweet. You're so kind. And this girl's going crazy like, when he's not around, they turn into the devil. And when he's around, they turn into an angel. So when I try to tell my husband that they're crazy, he says, what are you talking about? They're so nice. You're crazy. And this is a kind of emotional abuse. A husband and wife have to have a trusting relationship. They have to. If you don't have trust, you have nothing. There's nothing there. This is not a blood relationship. Marriage is a contract, which means you agreed to share a life together. And that requires the utmost amount of trust. If you can't even trust what she's saying to you, if you think that she's lying to you all the time, then what makes this marriage a marriage is not there. It's not there. For you to say, oh, I can't believe that, I can't believe that. If you can't believe it, then I don't know if you're in the right marriage. There's something fundamentally wrong. Something far deeper than just abuse. There's not even a trust left inside the marriage. Emotional abuse is sometimes verbal, and sometimes it's not even verbal. Sometimes it's the way you're looked at. Sometimes it's the way people sit around you. She comes into the room, they get up and walk away. They don't even turn their face this way. They change the tone of their voice. Sometimes even the way in which you say, wa alaikum as-salam. She says, Assalamu alaikum. Mother-in-law says, wa alaikum as-salam. Or she doesn't say anything at all. That's a pretty abusive statement, to not say anything at all. And then she can turn around and say, Maine kya kaha? What did I say? I didn't say anything. That's emotional abuse. And it's unacceptable. The last of the abuses, though, is the scariest one to me. And that's spiritual abuse. When the wrong is done, and then the religion is quoted. Allah says you have to be good to parents. This is what Islam teaches you. And they'll do the wrong, and then they'll invoke Allah and His book and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who are completely innocent of this nonsense. And then that's the religious or spiritual kind of blackmail and abuse that goes on in families. This needs to come to an end in your family. I'm only talking to the men right now. I'm not upset with parents. I'm not upset with anybody else. I'm not even upset with you, but I'm just giving you and myself a reality check. Look, our parents are not evil. They're not. They were brought up in a certain culture. They were brought up in a certain environment. They have certain norms that they've come to become used to. And some of those things are not right, but they don't realize that. They just do what they think in their mind is right. They're not. Nobody's purposely evil. They're not. Even though some women believe that about their in-laws. Nobody's intentionally evil. Everybody just thinks from a very different point of view. You, however, are in the middle. You're in the middle of two worlds that are pulling at you. And you're going to have to you're going to have to be the voice of reason and justice. And you know what that means? Sometimes you're going to have to take the side of your parents. And sometimes you're going to have to take the side of your wife. Because nobody's always right. And sometimes you will make a mistake too, and then you'll have to admit that you made a mistake. That's going to happen too. Which means the role that you are in, this middle role that you're in, is a very difficult one, and it's a role in which you will constantly be the object of criticism. Somebody will criticize you all the time. Because whatever decision you make upsets someone. Somebody will, congratulations on being a man. That's what it comes with. That's the role you have to play. الرجال قوامون على النساء. Congratulations. That's the role Allah has given us. If you don't understand that, you feel like this ayah is about this absolute authority Allah has given us, and we get to do whatever we want with the women under our authority. The word qiyam has nothing to do with authority, first of all. It has to do, like I said, with being active and making sure that you constantly check yourself and make sure that the relationship remains healthy, is commitment, is constancy. From it comes the word istiqama, which means fairness, even al-adl. One of the meanings of istiqama is adl, that they maintain fairness over it. One of my favorite meanings of it that I didn't even share with you is qum. From qiyam comes the word qum, which means al-qasd. Men are supposed to be not only there for their women in terms of caretaking and protection, they're supposed to give their women a sense of purpose and direction. They're actually supposed to, in a sense, even be mentors to their wives. Mentors to them, advisors to them. This is what you should do. Hey, let me help you fulfill this goal or that goal. How many times there are, especially in abusive family situations, there are women that used to have goals. I want to start an orphanage, I want to do this, I want to write a book, I want to do that, and they don't get to do any of it. Who is supposed to encourage them and open up that door for them and say, yeah, you should do it. I know you make a mean paratha, but you can also write a book. You should work on that. Who was supposed to encourage them and do that? That was supposed to be the husband. He was supposed to open that door. So I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal gives us and our children the ability to be raised mentally as qawwam, and the abuse that is happening inside of our families, that we're the reason that it comes to an end. I'm not giving this khutbah that you go home and you start fights. That's not why I gave this khutbah. Ladies, I did not give this khutbah so you go say, hey, watch this video. Don't do that. That is not why I gave this khutbah. It's for men to do an introspection of themselves. That is part of the selfishness that we have now adopted. Everybody hears a khutbah or a lecture or a talk and they think, well, this will be really good for my rights. Everybody should be thinking this will be good for my responsibilities. Don't become selfish in this religion. This religion is about you serving Allah first and foremost. So we just take stock of ourselves. And when you do go back and try to implement some of these things, even implement them with mercy. Even if your parents are doing wrong and you're correcting them, you're not a police officer and you're not a judge. You're a son still. Even if you're going to correct them, you're going to correct them with love and mercy and care. You're going to be tactful and careful about it. And so may Allah Azza wa Jal give us that delicacy so that we can really truly fulfill the words of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, خَيْرُكُمْ خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِهِ وَأَنَا خَيْرٌ مِنْكُمْ لِأَهْلِي. The best of you are the best to their families. And he didn't say the best of you are the best to good families. Even if you have a messed up family, you still have to do your best. Right? And I'm the best of you to my family. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us better and better families and make us do right by our families. Barakallahu li wa lakum fil Qur'an al-Hakim wa nafa'ani wa iyyakum bil ayat wa dhikr al-Hakim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.